Portions of this show are recorded. Strap in and be prepared.
I see the potential of this team.
Can I call for calm? Can we call for calm?
I am. I'm not ready to be out on this team yet.
Interesting guests.
Kelly Graves, Mike Parker, Coach Mark Waskowski, Noah Eagle, Melissa Lombardi, Kenyon Barnard.
Sharp opinions.
I love playing to win and not playing not to lose.
And some smiles.
Justin is tearing the box open.
This is perfect.
So what is it?
It's a dad joke button.
Give me this.
It's Danny Havel.
Grandpa always said, if you want to get out of a hole, stop digging.
Justin Grossweiner.
Just getting a win, it's nice. You know,
Yeah.
you got to just enjoy the little things sometimes.
Danny and Justin starts now on Fox Sports Eugene and Fox Sports Newport.
Hello, neighbors, and welcome high top the Delta Triad, Crystal Palace, the Bigfoot Beverages Studios, Fox Sports Eugene, Fox Sports Newport. This is the Danny and Justin radio program for a Monday. It is the 12th day of January, year of our Lord, 2026. Thanks for tuning in, friends. The fastest 60 minutes launches now. You can follow us on Twitter and Blue Sky, Danny and Justin. Also find us on the pod. I just did that today. I was just doing a random search on Apple Podcasts. We came up number 2 when you type in Danny and Justin. So you don't have to search too far wherever you podcast. And if you miss it today, you can go back and listen to it later, especially the 3-hour extravaganza that was, if you want to relive it, from Friday. I don't think there's a lot of people who want to relive Friday if you're within the sound of our voices. But we're going to relive it one last time, give you the postmortem of the Peach Bowl, take a quick peek at what the national championship game is. We're going to focus more on what's next for the University of Oregon football program. Max Torres, El Toro, Le Bull will be on with us to talk about recruiting, talking about the portal, who's in, who's out, who could be in, who could be out. I'm Danny. Right over there is my tag team partner, Justin Grossweiner. We call him Baby J. But oh boy!
Well, when I was talking to those listeners on Friday in the 3-hour Danny and Justin extravaganza, the Ducks had championship hopes, and now they have Dylan Raiola. So that's where Oregon's 2025 football season has gone. It is now in the books, and we are looking ahead toward next year. And I'm excited toward next year. I know that this season, the ending was borderline unwatchable at times. If you were a true Oregon fan, you stuck it out, but I'm guessing a lot of fans out there did not make it all the way through that game, and honestly, rightfully so. It was a hard performance to watch, but I think there's a lot to be excited about for the future. It's interesting. You kind of think I'm a pessimist, but I think I sometimes fall right in the middle at times, and I think I'm more of an optimist in the situation. People are all out on Dante Moore. They want him gone.
Could you be optimistically pessimist?
Yeah, that's called
and that's what I
being a realist.
What I call you. That's what I call you.
That's why I'm here.
Okay, so I just want to correct for the record. I don't just call you a pessimist. It's recorded. You can go back and listen to it. Optimistically pessimist.
All right.
Okay.
Fair enough. I mean, I think that's why I'm here, because I try to give opinions that I'm not. I'm trying to be as objective as possible. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to look at it through
not
the
be
lens.
Fanboy.
Exactly.
Not be just rah-rah.
And you have
drinking
to take
the
a
Kool-Aid.
step back at times.
You have to. So that's one thing when I have outside people who don't follow the University of Oregon or Oregon State University the way we do talk to me thinking, because of my other affiliation with university, that I am just the guy who just drinks the Kool-Aid. Mm-hmm. And no matter what, no, that is not the case. Because people are asking me, of course I'm going to go in with some level of optimism. Why go all the way to Atlanta, Georgia, if you don't think Oregon's going to win the football game? If you don't think Oregon's going to win the football game, then you don't travel all the way there. A lot more Indiana fans were there than Oregon fans, and I'm a little disappointed in the Oregon fan base because I was sitting in what was supposed to be an Oregon section, and I literally could probably count on my 2 hands how many Oregon fans were there. So Oregon fans, if they did buy the tickets, they sold them to Indiana fans for probably a premium. So I'm just going to, and that's where I'm going to start this little rant, is that I think there should be more control over reselling your tickets. If you especially buy them through the university and resell them, you resell them to a verified fan of the university as well. That you keep those things in-house. There's got to be a way to do that. And I know there is, because there are, I don't know where it came up from, but I think it was it was the San Francisco 49ers, or the Seattle Seahawks. The season ticket holders were told, because they have people scanning, that if they're selling their seats to a playoff game, they are in danger of losing their season ticket status if they sell it to a non-fan of the team that they're rooting for, the home team, which I think is perfectly just.
Do you want to know why?
Sure.
Because it actually affects what's on the football field. It actually affects the players when they're going into an environment when it is, what did you say on Friday? It was 80-20?
It was
90-10?
It was 80-20 outside the stadium. When I got in the stadium, when I got into Mercedes-Benz Stadium, it was absolutely 95-5.
That is
the biggest
such an advantage for them.
Right. The biggest section was the Oregon band.
Yeah, which isn't good.
No, and when Dante Moore, see, I'm already on Dylan Rayola.
I know.
When Dante Moore said...
Dylan Gabriel as well from the previous year when they got blown out against Ohio State.
When Dante, in the postgame presser, thought that he said, well, I just thought they were red seats, but then when he figured out it was just Indiana fans, I sent you pictures.
Mm-hmm.
It was a sea of red. Now, and tip your hats.
You got to see it on the TV, too.
Right. Tip your hats to the Indiana faithful, the largest alumni fan base in the entire country.
Which I did not know until very recently, by the way.
Over 900,000 active alumni for University of Indiana.
Was
or
it
Indiana
you that was telling me this?
Yeah. Somebody told me, and I actually was talking to several of the Hoosiers because they were all over the place, and especially afterwards.
Apparently they're all over the place everywhere.
They're all over the place. But
the biggest.
It was disappointing that the Oregon faithful were not going to outnumber Indiana no matter what.
No, it's so much harder to get there.
So don't let me, don't start painting me like I'm
This is a reasonable take. Absolutely.
That you shouldn't have sold your tickets in the Oregon section to someone who isn't rooting for Oregon. There was a reason why,
right.
Because I checked, Oregon sold out their allotment. So they should have had at least 30% of the stadium should have been green, and it wasn't even close. So for future, if you want to support the university, buy the tickets and go to the game. If you don't want to go to the game, don't buy the tickets. Don't buy them to make money. Don't buy them. I could probably have sold my tickets, and I probably would have made a mint. Didn't feel like that was the right thing to do as a fan.
Right.
Okay. By the way, the stadium was incredible. The aquarium was top notch, and the Waffle House was everything it was cracked up to be. So there you go. Nice. I had a pecan waffle Saturday morning on our way back.
There you go. So I've got a question for you.
Sure.
So, did you get a chance to rewatch the game at all? Do you have any desire to rewatch the game at all?
I did not rewatch the game, and I will probably not rewatch the game. Just like I didn't rewatch the Rose Bowl.
Fair enough.
I watched it the first time.
The highlights even.
It was just disappointing. And I think I said, didn't I say, watch the first 5 minutes, watch the last 5 minutes? And that first 5 minutes kind of told me everything I needed to know, except for the fact that Oregon, it was 0-0 again, or 7-7.
Right. No, we'll get to this in a second. My point is, I want to ask you first, before we really get into the nuts and bolts of the game, is that what did you notice that you think you maybe only could have noticed by actually being there? Obviously, a lot of Oregon fans weren't there. It was mostly Indiana fans. You were someone that was actually there. Were you close enough to actually notice anything that you might not have noticed on the broadcast?
The decibel level was off the charts for Indiana. It was like it would be the closest thing I can resemble it to was being at Ohio Stadium in the fourth quarter in Mario's last year. I think it was Mario's last
2019?
year. 2019.
Yeah, I was there.
Right. So when the crowd finally started rocking,
Ohio State got back in that game.
Right. That was the loudest I had heard it, and that was dwarfed by what happened at Mercedes-Benz Stadium when Pons picks off Dante Moore on that first play. It was deafening, and it did not let up. Every score, it was just as loud. The band was going.
Yeah.
Public address. I mean, he played it well on both sides. He, third down on both sides. He didn't play any favorites in that respect, but it was like an Indiana home game.
Okay, now I want to get into the nuts and bolts of the game, because exactly what you were talking about. The first thing that happens, this interception, it's obviously really awful play for Oregon.
Yep.
My friend literally texted me right afterwards. game over, I said, okay, come on, let's calm down for a second. But I think the thing is this. The Ducks come down the next drive.
14 plays,
very
75
impressive
yards.
drive.
Yep.
Great play calling.
Yep.
Dante looked good.
Yep.
I thought it could, and I think I said this to you, I thought it could be one of those situations where sometimes you see like a pitcher in baseball where it's the first inning and they groove one and it's just a home run for the other team. They get up 1-0. You think, uh-oh, like I don't know if this guy has it today.
Right.
And then for some reason
They mow down the
calm
next
down because
9.
of it.
Right.
I think it relaxes them sometimes. That did not happen with Dante Moore, clearly, because, I mean, that first drive, he looked pretty good, but the second there was any sort of pressure, and that's what's going to happen, is the pressure is going to ramp up again. I mean, there were some fluky plays. There were some plays that I felt like he didn't have some good awareness. I think overall for him, I mean, I think it was by far his worst performance of the season.
You know what's crazy about that is that Dante, after that interception, one, he didn't throw another pick. First of all,
no, it was just fumbles.
He went 24 of 39 for 285 yards, 2 touchdowns. Now, obviously, that one touchdown was like,
they
didn't matter.
Indiana.
But you can say all of that. That's where stats.
True.
I know. You can say all that, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at all. Only stat that matters is the scoreboard.
Well, the stat that really mattered was the 3 turnovers that gifted Indiana 21 points.
Oregon lost the turnover battle and put the defense in a horrible position. Everybody can rip apart Tosh Lupoi's defense if they want, but 3 drives started inside the 20-yard line. 2 drives started inside the 15-yard line. There's not a whole lot of defenses in the country that are not going to give up points in those situations.
I saw people saying that about Oregon's defense. I was like, did you watch the game? Yeah. It could not be more clear that the offense was the thing that was failing Oregon in this game. I mean, you talk about right away, you had that turnover that put you behind the 8 ball, and you were already not on serve with Indiana.
Block punt.
They got their break and serve, right? Because you thought this would be kind of one of those games where it might go back and forth. And so all of a sudden, Indiana has an uppercut already. And then the defense wasn't even given a chance. How could you put this on the defense at all?
You can't. Fernando Mendoza, he only threw 20.
He didn't have to do anything.
He only threw 20 passes.
He didn't barely have to do anything.
5 touchdowns. A third of his passes were completed for touchdowns. He was 17 of 20 for 177 yards.
I think the thing that's the most frustrating, if you're an Oregon fan, it's not the fact that you lost this game. I think that people kind of coming into it, and you were pretty optimistic. I really wanted to be optimistic, but I thought this Indiana team was really, really good. That being said, I don't think anybody expected this result. I certainly did not. And that's what's disappointing, is that not only did Oregon not win, but it was a performance where they were shooting themselves in the foot over and over and over again.
By far the worst performance of the season at the worst possible time. Coming off probably one of the best defensive performances of the year.
But it was a very sloppy offensive performance, which was putting them behind the 8 ball in that previous game as well. So it wasn't just against Indiana where they were having some offensive struggles. They were really struggling against Texas Tech as well. And it was concerning to me. And you were talking about how Indiana had already peaked and that coming into the game, Oregon hadn't played their best football. I think the hope was that the fact that they were making those mistakes at that time and they were going to be able to correct them going forward. But I think that it just was something that was a sign of what was going to come going forward. And I think that looking into next year, because I think there's nothing you can do if you're Oregon, anybody who were involved with Oregon, except for move forward. You just have to learn.
Got to flesh
and
it.
that's exactly what Dane Lanning said after the game, by the way. You just have to accept this, move on, and move forward. You have to, if you're a football team, the buys and all that, that was the last year thing. This year, I think the lesson to be learned is, man, you got to be playing your best football and peaking at the right time. That's what Ohio State did last year, too. And Indiana,
that's what Indiana is doing right now.
Wow. I mean, I've never seen a team peak like this, maybe.
The Danny Justin radio program, Max Torres, is going to be coming up in a few moments from On 3. We'll be talking a lot about the portal. There's a lot of news and information coming out, a couple of big pickups for Oregon, a couple of surprising departures I want to talk about, especially one that came today on the defensive side of the football and a player that I thought was on the rise for Oregon coming into next season. We'll talk about that as well. But as we put one last postscript on the Peach Bowl, and so now you've got Indiana and Miami in the national championship game. I said it last week, and I'll say it again. Whoever the winner of the Oregon-Indiana game is going to be the national champion. I have seen nothing to take me off of that pick. Okay, that's first of all. So I'm all on Indiana right now. I think Oregon gave Indiana opportunities to be successful, and Indiana, to their credit, took advantage of them. Sometimes in sports, the better team does win. And on Friday, Indiana absolutely was the better. You can talk all about the depleted running back room. You can talk all you want about the cornerback room, all that. I don't see one of those guys in that running back room playing defense.
Well, the best player on Oregon's offense was Jay Harris.
And he just signed with Kansas State today.
And good on him. And I think a lot of Oregon fans are going to be rooting for him because, honestly, he was really good.
He's going to have a fun time in Manhattan, Kansas under Colin Klein and that offense that the Wildcats are going to put to bear. So let's just lay it out again one last time. Is Dan Lanning hates having these post-game press conferences like this, like he had last year as well after the Ohio State game, and a whole lot of other questions because you were the number one team in the country. Mm-hmm. This year, Oregon was 5, and Indiana was 1. You lost to the number one team. Think about Dan Lanning's 5 losses. Think about his 5 losses have been to Ohio State.
Well, he has 7.
Okay, 7, but 5 losses. If you want to talk about, post seasons,
correct?
Okay. Lost to Washington, played the national championship game. Ohio State was the national champion. Indiana is probably going to be the national champion. They're playing the championship game. Right. There's only one team that's going to hoist the trophy. There's only one team that's going to have a happy ending to a season. And Oregon, unfortunately, got a little bit closer. And I know Dan Lanning's going to want to bust through that wall next year, but he's going to have to replace some pieces, and there are going to be some things that they're going to have to fix. Moving forward, you're going to have a new offense coordinator, you're going to have a new defensive coordinator, and you're going to have new players. Or you might have some old players. We don't know yet. Dante Moore's still a question mark. Is he going to come back or is he not? He's definitely not going to be the number one pick now. I don't see in any scenario he's going to be the number one pick.
Absolutely not.
So maybe that's enough reason and impetus to come back.
I think he's coming back. That's just, if you asked me what my opinion is, I think he's coming back. I don't know why you would want to leave on a game like that. Your draft stock. I don't know exactly how much one game can do to tank a draft stock, but whatever the biggest amount that you could have, it happened to Dante Moore in that last game. And just, I'm sure it left a bad taste in his mouth. So, again, plenty of reason to leave. There's a weak quarterback class. He's absolutely going to be a first-round pick. He's probably going to be a top 10 pick, a top 5 pick. That being said, I don't know. It seems like he's a guy that he made some different decisions when he came to Oregon and waited for a year. Right. I don't know why he wouldn't consider at least coming back. It's not unprecedented for Oregon quarterbacks. Just look at Justin Herbert. It worked out for him. It worked out for both of them.
Right. So anybody who wants to say out there as well, who says, well, Dylan Raiola, who is he was a 5-star or 4-star coming out of high school. 5-star, coming out of high school. He's considered a 4-star transfer from Nebraska, broke his leg and did not finish the season with Nebraska this past year. So highly touted. He entered the portal and quickly made the decision to sign with Oregon, and he did today. So if people want to use that as a signal, oh, Dante's not coming back, don't think that way.
No, it's not. And it's because being reported that way either.
Right, because he's got a red shirt that he can still use. And Dante Moore sat behind Dylan Gabriel for a year, and then knew that he was going to have to win the job. Dylan Raiola, I'm sure, was told by the Oregon coaching staff. I was not in the room, but I'm sure it's the same line everybody says.
What's being reported is that he could sit behind Dante Moore for a year.
And because he's recovering from a horrific injury as well.
Well, he also seems like one of those guys that he played his first year coming out of college or high school, and he was not super great. And last year, honestly, and I mean, last year, whatever you want to consider it, he was pretty good. But seems like a guy that could be like a Dante Moore, where you give him some time, you give him some reps, and time to understand an offense, then he could be really good a couple of years from now. I think that the problem is for a lot of Oregon fans is they just don't really like him. I think there's just a lot of people out there fans. They don't like how he basically pretends to be Patrick Mahomes. He has the same number. No, seriously, I'm 100% serious.
I'm not.
He literally has the same number. He has the same hairstyle. He does the same, he celebrates the same way. He very clearly leans into this, and he knows what's exactly happening. So
there are worse people to emulate.
100%. You're not wrong. But some people don't like that. I'm telling you, that's a real thing.
They can do all
Call
that.
Call in if you want to talk about how you don't like Dylan Raiola.
The Oregon Mac Clear Hotline at 541-343-5673. But you're not going to be able to call in.
You probably don't
next.
want to do that because he's going to be quarterback for the Ducks.
Let's go to a break. And ScoopDuck on 3 in the wings. He's also on the at Ducks Dish podcast. It's Max Torres, our good friend the Bull, El Toro, is going to be next. We'll talk about the recruiting, both what is going on in the portal and still what could be out there in the window. Next with Max on the Danny and Justin radio program. We'll dive into Oregon men's and women's basketball along with Oregon State men's and women's basketball. They were both in action this weekend in our last segment. But first, let's head on over to the Oregon Man Clinic's hotline at 541-343-5673 and welcome in the Oregon recruiting and football analyst on ScoopDuck on 3. Also hosts the At Ducks Dish podcasts, the West Coast recruiting analyst, and our good friend, you can follow him on Twitter, M. Torres Sports. We call him El Toro. It's Max Torres joining us. Max, you did not go to Atlanta, and thank goodness for you, right?
Yeah, what's going on, guys? Thanks for having me back. It was a crazy one to watch, but I watched it from a distance.
So I guess the question is, and the biggest takeaway or the scuttlebutt, and the biggest question is going to be, what happens with Dante Moore? Because if things would have turned out a bit differently, meaning stat line looked a little bit differently or and didn't have the turnovers and such, he could have locked himself into a number one pick in the NFL draft and then had even a harder decision to make. But if you're a betting man right now, what's the line on Dante Moore returning to the Ducks?
Oof, that's definitely the $1,000,000 question right now, Danny. I mean, I would say that if I had to make a call, it would probably be that he goes to the NFL. Rather than return to Oregon for one more year. I think with his draft stock being where it's at, it's a little hard to tell. You know, I'm not a draft guy, so you would think that it would maybe take somewhat of a hit after that game against Indiana in the Peach Bowl. But I'm sure that there's a lot of people out there that just see the tools and see the touch that he has on his deep ball, and they're like, we need this guy, and we want to take him this year. So I just think with the money that's on the table, I just don't know how much he can raise his draft stock compared to what it already is by playing one more year of college football. So I think history tells us that most people in Dante's situation will go, but you can't rule out a return. You certainly can't rule out a return, especially with a lot of the guys that Oregon has already gotten back, even though they're on defense. He has a center back for the 2026 season with Poncho, but I think for Dante, you have the narrative now of like, all right, unfinished business. Let's run it back one more year and see if we can kind of get this program over the hump. But the Ducks did take a step forward, getting to the semis this year, which is not something they did last year. So right now, I wouldn't be surprised if Dante went, but I'm not putting it past the staff to get him back for one more year. So sorry if that's not the best answer.
No. It's a fair answer.
I think you're touching a lot of things I'd like to talk about, but unfortunately, I have to ask you about this specific point. So Oregon loses they had all their starting defensive linemen come back. Tuioti, Mateo, Amari Washington, and then Barry Alexander announced that a little bit ago. But they did have a number of their backups on the defensive line leave. So that bears the question of what does Oregon have in-house that they can basically count on for next year, and what do you think they're going to have to do now in the portal with those guys gone?
Yeah, so we already know a lot of the big pieces that are coming back. You know, all of the entire starting defensive lines coming back. Barry Alexander got that started before the college football playoff even got underway. And then offensively, you have Iapani Pancho Lalaulu, so the nucleus of your offensive line. You got a lot of really good receivers coming back, DeCorian Moore, Jeremiah McClellan. You lost one in Cooper Perry, who was on the field a good amount, but only caught 8 passes and didn't really occupy that big of a role, and probably wouldn't have had that big of a role had it not been for injury. But you have some really good receivers coming back, so that's a good foundation. And then you've got a new one in Iverson Hooks from UAB, who's transferring in with 2 years of eligibility remaining. You have, presumably, I don't want to put the cart before the horse here, you have Jamari Johnson coming back for another year. We don't know if Kenyon Sadiq's going to come back or not. I would think that he's going to go, but you never know with these days. And then you have both of your stud true freshman running backs in Jordan Davison and Deere Hill coming back. So a lot of really good pieces coming back, and then a ton of talent just getting injected into this roster from the 2026 prep recruiting class. So I think moving forward, if you're looking at the portal, I think you probably want another offensive lineman if possible. Maybe you look at linebacker. I know a ton of Duck fans have been clamoring about the linebacker room, and just, it's progression or lack thereof. It depends kind of where you fall on that. A lot of Duck fans want another linebacker to be added to the mix here, and then probably a safety. I think that depends on what happens with Dylan Thieneman and his NFL decision. We know that they want to try to get another corner. I think that the Ducks got a guy from Baylor today that committed. His name is, I'm drawing a blank right now, but he's a Baylor DB, so that's obviously going to help them get their depth where they want it to be. So that's kind of the broad rundown, I think, of where the Ducks probably need to go in the portal.
That was Carl Williams IV from Baylor, I
Correct.
believe. Yep.
There you go.
Yep.
And you mentioned to me off the air that you had spoken to the guys that actually committed today in the transfer portal as well, a couple other guys. Iverson Hooks, the wide receiver from UAB, and then Michael Bennett from Yale. So what can you tell me about those two guys?
Yeah, so two really good interviews. One of them's already posted on ScoopDuck. The other one, Michael Bennett, is coming later today. I'll start with Hooks. He has a really cool story. Obviously, he's from Alabama, and he played at UAB, has 2 years of eligibility remaining. And when I asked him about why he chose Oregon, he really just dove into how it had been a dream of his since he was 4. I kind of started off with the star playmakers that he watched on TV growing up, Marcus Mariota, DeAnthony Thomas, guys like that. The bright colors on his on the screen with the uniforms caught his eye. But from there, it's looking at what Oregon is as a program right now. They're always nationally ranked. They develop players and they put them into the NFL, whether it's from the prep level or the transfer portal ranks. That they do both of those. So he's really excited. He wants to get out to Eugene as soon as possible. He mentioned maybe joining the team as soon as Wednesday.
Wow.
But it just depends on, he has to fly back to Alabama and get his things and move out and get enrolled and get the classes figured out. So there's a lot of things that still need to happen for him. And then Bennett is one that I'm really intrigued by because he's an Ivy League guy, and I don't think Oregon's gotten an Ivy League transfer in recent memory, if ever. But 2,000 snaps at right tackle this past season, and he'll have 1 year of eligibility left. I think he certainly comes to Eugene with a little bit of a chip on his shoulder, just kind of wants to prove that he can, compete at this level. He really raved about Malik Terry. He said, I've only known him for 4 days now, but he just really loves the fit that is there for him in that offensive line room with the law firm. And he actually mentioned something that kind of fascinated me, saying that he thinks one of the biggest benefits from, being a portal guy and making that move up to the FBS level to the Big Ten is the access to nutrition, the sports science, the recovery, all of those things, and then the competition that you're going to be going against every day. And of course, we just spoke about the caliber of defensive linemen that Oregon's going to be returning next year. So all of that, I think, really factored into what Michael Bennett saw as far as the appeal goes. And I think that the Ducks are probably going to look at him as a top option to replace the departing tackles in Isaiah World and Alex Harkey.
Yeah, and Bennett is a large human, 6'5", 310. His hometown, Atlanta, Georgia. And so Georgia let one slip through the cracks there. Max Torres joining us on the Danny and Justin radio program, ScoopDuck on 3. You can follow him, Torres Sports, on Twitter. Max, I want to talk about competition because Oregon, and I think there were some, national guys that were like, Indiana, all they do is recruit the 3-star guys. You don't need 4 or 5-star guys. I don't know if that was Herb Street or something that was on that rail or that rant. Well, I'll tell you what, 4 and 5-star guys are 4 and 5-star guys for a reason, because they're really good. But Oregon seems to collect these, but there's only one football. There's only a certain number of slots and positions open where you're going to get significant playing time. There was kind of an exodus of some players that found that out at the University of Oregon, that they could be highly recruited, highly coveted, but they're not necessarily going to see the field. Is Dan Lanning and his staff, here's finally the question, starting to get the sense and the feel in the recruiting circles and world that you are going to have to earn your playing time? It doesn't matter what you were in high school or at some other school.
Yeah, I think that's definitely some of the sentiment around just the roster churn and roster management that we've seen. And I think it also goes back to just what you see with the proven production. Like, those are the guys that any staff in the country is going to want back probably 9 times out of 10 over, guys in the transfer portal, or even, as we've seen, some of the younger guys that haven't proven it as much. So that's not to say that, Dan Lanning and the staff don't value some of the depth that they're losing here, because that's kind of one of the big things that we've seen so far, at least on the defensive line. Like, guys that are in the two deep are leaving because of so many of the returners, presumably, right? No one has said that on the record, but presumably it's because they want the play time, they want the snaps, and they're not going to be getting that if they have all of these starters that are coming back and playing ahead of them. So, yeah, you certainly have to earn your playing time, but I think it also coincides with just college football being more of a business than it has ever been. We're in the free agency window here that is known as the transfer portal in 2026, and some guys are going to want money, and Oregon has to have those conversations with some of them. So I want to be clear that I'm not saying that's why guys are leaving, but I think that we'd be kidding ourselves and being a little bit naive if we're not acknowledging that as a factor.
Yeah, I mean, it's all about playing time, and because these players, when they're, and you've made this point to me before, when they're getting to school, where they're trying to go, it's because they're trying to go to the NFL. They're not trying to just go to college to go to college. Like, they obviously want to make it to the next level, and you got to play to be able to do that. So there's still a lot of questions coming into the 2026 season, and obviously the taste out of the 2025 season was not good in the mouth. It just did not end how Oregon fans would have liked. But as you mentioned earlier, Dan Lanning did take his team to the college football playoff semifinals, which is a step forward. So my question is this: despite not knowing if Dante's going to come back, but we do see, I guess you would say, the bones of this team coming into the 2026 season. Do you think that they are still on the trajectory where Dan Lanning has kind of improved every season? Does this team, with the roster that they have, and Dylan Raiola may end up being the quarterback, or maybe it's Dante Moore, does this team have the bones, do you think, maybe continue that trajectory where Dan Lanning can continue to rise up and, you never know, get to the championship next year? Like, I don't know.
I think they do. I think they have maybe not the bones from a roster standpoint just yet. It depends on what position you're looking at. Like, obviously, after what we've seen in the last 24 hours, defensive line is one of the biggest questions, probably number two, I would say, after Dante Moore, since we still don't know what he's doing. But I think that just the way that we've seen Lanning and this regime operate, it shows that they know how to build a roster. They still have one of the best rosters in all of college football. But I'm going to be really fascinated to see how they choose to fill the holes that have kind of opened up here at some of the depth spots in the two deep along the defensive line, because you have some guys that haven't said anything yet. Aiden Breland, Matt Johnson, I don't believe Elijah Rushing has said anything yet. So those guys are going to be in contention for some snaps, but then you also have some of the newer guys like Tony Cumberland, and then five-star Tank Jones, the edge rusher out of Alabama. Like, so you're not without any options here. It's just, I think it's just more so you have such a limited window to get guys onto campus, see if they're made of the right stuff. Do they fit your program, which is such an interesting term, I feel like. Can they help you win? That's pretty much what it comes down to. But you also have to look at the locker room and the culture and all these things. So very long-winded answer here. I think, yes, they definitely still are made of the right stuff, but there's twists and turns for any program. And I think one of them I'm going to be interested to watch them kind of navigate moving forward is the emergence of Texas Tech and Indiana in the transfer portal, because you're not necessarily seeing Ohio State or some of these other really, really big schools, go on some of the runs that you might have expected in the transfer portal. That's not to say that they won't, but I'm just interested to see kind of where all these chips fall and how the dust settles, because Oregon has shown that they are some of the best in the biz at retaining talent and keeping it stocked and loaded and reloading year after year.
ScoopDuck on 3, Duck's Dish. It's our friend El Toro, the Bull. Max Torres joining us on the Danny and Justin radio program as we wind things up here on a Monday in the aftermath and the postmortem of the Peach Bowl loss. The Duck season's over. Indiana moves on to take on Miami in the national championship game. Don't necessarily want to talk about that, but I do want to talk about the timing of everything. You kind of touched over on the top of it, but I want to dig a little bit deeper. And there's been a lot of discussion, and we've discussed it plenty here on this program, about the calendar and about how there's legislation, but there's no management in college football anymore. There is no commissioner. There is no one person that can help navigate what everyone has opened up, which is basically it's the wild, wild west with the NIL, with transfer portal, with money being flown around, with people leaving and then coming back to programs after being threatened to be sued. I mean, it's just nuts out there. So, Max, I mean, are we getting to a diminishing point where something has to change? Otherwise, it becomes even more broken than it already is?
I think so. I mean, that's a huge question, and no one has the answer. But I just feel like with the developments that we've seen, even since the start of this transfer cycle, is God, it's just crazy. It is the Wild West, but I can't help but think that this is going towards college athletes, at least football players, becoming employees. Like it's just more about the money than it has ever been. It is so glaringly obvious. There needs to be some kind of guardrails out here. The NCAA is losing power by the day if they haven't lost it all already. The conference commissioners are getting more powerful and maybe taking more on their plate than they've ever had to. We're talking about playoff expansion and scholarship limit. Like everything is on the table here, and it's like I feel like I'm walking around like a chicken with its head cut off sometimes, trying to see what the heck is going on. So
would a commissioner help? Would one point at the tip of the sword help this?
I mean, I think it could to some degree, as far as just having someone that can kind of be the end all be all, since right now you have people that are referencing and pointing to a lot of different things when they're looking for answers. But then there's going to be there's no way to satisfy everybody, right? It's kind of like being a journalist. Someone's going to always take issue with what you say. Oh, Max, you're being too nice on them, or hey, no, that's a sweet spot. So there's no perfect answer for it. I mean, I think it's an interesting solution having just one overall far-reaching college commissioner, but I couldn't tell you the right answer here.
Well, I mean, something's got to. There's going to be a situation where now. It's already happened in some respects, a group of players suing the NCAA to become, quote-unquote, de facto employees. That's how we arrived at NIL, revenue share, dollars being distributed, contracts being written, and they are being treated like employees. I mean, I think you said it the other day, Justin, and this was something that Max, I think Justin hit it right on the head. Dante Moore is like his own business. He's a $5 million business person walking around, a corporation. And that's what we've become in college athletics.
Yeah, that's definitely what it's become. And I mean, obviously the quarterbacks hold such a key to a team because I think the saying still holds true. You go as far as your quarterback takes you. No matter, obviously you need good pieces on the rest of your roster,
sure.
But that's just such a central part in any team's success. So, I mean, I'm selfishly hoping that I get to cover Dante Moore for one more season, but, there's always going to be dominoes at the quarterback position. Sam Levitt is reportedly heading to LSU, but maybe it's not quite over just yet. So it's crazy out there, but I can't wait to see this Oregon roster come together because now we're at the point in the season, or in the calendar rather, where it's just so forward thinking. Now we're on to 2026 and we're in the process of putting 2025 to bed.
And I'm not going to claim Oregon's the best in Dan Lanning, but obviously they're what Indiana's doing can't really be topped. But and I think they're kind of an example of what I'm about to ask you as well. But don't you think that the reason why Oregon is so successful is because despite all these issues that we have in college football, that Dan Lanning and the Ducks and their program, the athletic department, have found ways to, I don't know if make the best of a bad situation, but almost take advantage of what their opportunities are and where they are. And that's what's led them to being able to build a roster, to be able to maintain relationships, which is really what it's all about with coaches and recruits, because it's all about recruiting, obviously. So Oregon's ability to manage these things is what's led them to be able to be competitive in the college football playoff. If you ask me, what do you think?
I would definitely agree because you have to give a lot of props to Dan Lanning because for a first-time head coach, you really can't have a whole lot more success than he's had. And I think that this obviously feeds into the discussion around, what does Oregon have to do to get over the hump? All the criticism is essentially with Lanning not having won a title yet, which is, insane.
Right.
And I saw, because it just seems really tone deaf to me, and it is so focused on, that's the end all be all. Whereas I think going into the playoffs, I thought that winning a playoff game was kind of a step forward because they didn't do that last year. But then, you had JMU as your opponent, and their head coach kind of was on his way out, obviously kind of had 1 foot in, 1 foot out with taking over UCLA. So for me, it kind of adjusted a little bit, right? It went to winning 2 playoff games
Yep, and they did that.
and ultimately getting to the semifinal. So I guess if you had to say a next step for Oregon now, it would be getting to the national title game, which seems so weird for a program that has been so heavily mentioned with the national title conversation. But I think that there's definitely levels to it. There's steps to take because it's never been harder than it is now to win a national championship.
Okay, so part of this, I guess, maybe for Oregon, fans, is how much harder does it look because of the fact that Mario, who was in the championship, is the guy that literally was before Dan Lanning, and
he opened the door for Dan
in this
Lanning.
same time period now has his team in Miami in the championship. Doesn't that make it just, I guess, a little bit harder for Oregon fans to be rational instead of looking at it as, hey, Dan Lanning's in his 5th year now, coming into this 5th year as a head coach, and guys just don't win that early on in their careers?
Yeah, no, I think so. That's obviously a big part of the story right now is, oh man, Oregon's old head coach is over there at Miami just crushing it, and now he has his team ready for a national championship game. But I think another part of it has to be discussed is that Cristobal and also Kurt Cignetti, like they're not losing coordinators. I mean, it's hard to put an absolute value on it, but you can't tell me that Oregon's performance in the Peach Bowl wasn't in some way related to Will Stein and Tosh Lupoi having taken jobs, because you can't, you couldn't dedicate 100% of your time to that one goal of, hey, we got a game this week, we got to beat Indiana to punch our ticket to the state title, or to the national championship game rather, because they had to, hey, we have a limited window of opportunity here in the transfer portal. You're our guy at Cal. You're our guy at Kentucky. We need good players. We need more players. We need to hire coaches, and we need clarity for the boosters. Like, all those things are at play here. So it's impossible, I think, to continue doing your job at the same caliber, the same level of execution that you were before that. And I got to say that both Will Stein and Tosh Lupoi made tremendous contributions to the Oregon football program, and I'm sure Dan Lanning feels the same way. I'm not trying to slight them. I just think that we would be naive to not mention that as part of the puzzle here, because Mario Cristobal and Kurt Cignetti are not dealing with that, and look at where it got them.
Right, Max, spot on. Thank you for all that insight. Thanks for everything you do covering the Ducks, and anybody who's not following you right now or subscribing ScoopDuck on 3, shame on you, and listen to him on the Ducks Dish podcast as well. Max, have a restful evening as much as you can, because I know your fingers are flying and the phone's working.
Oh, yeah, it's a busy time out here. Thank you guys so much for having me.
You bet, sir. Max Torres, the great Max Torres, M Torres Sports, that's Torres Sports on Twitter. Mario's crushing it.
I mean, he is.
Well, he's in the national championship game on his home field.
It's true.
On his home
but they
field.
didn't play on their home field to get there.
They did not. When we come back, we'll talk a little hardwoods. The basketball did not go well this weekend for Oregon men and women. So we'll talk about that when we come back.
Wasn't a good sports winning or weekend.
Just so sad. Back with more right after this. Oregon men's basketball is struggling right now. 8-8 overall, 1-4 in the Big Ten. They lost on Thursday night, 72-62 to Ohio State. Next up for the Oregon men, they're on the road taking on, here we go, number 10 Nebraska tomorrow night, 6 p.m. That'll be on the Big Ten Network, trying to right the ship. And again, without Jackson Shellstad, who might return in that game. We'll find out tomorrow, and we'll talk about it on Wednesday. Katie Fiso gave Oregon the lead with just under 5 minutes left, but number 15 Michigan State rattled off the next 6 points and held off Oregon 85-81 yesterday at Matt Knight Arena. It was a hot start from Oregon as the rundown came out. Ducks were up by as many as 16 early in the second quarter, and they let that lead slip through their fingers. Fiso dumps in 20 points. Mia Jacobs, Sophia Bell had 18 each for the Ducks, all three playing all 20 minutes in that first half. They did not rest at all. Kelly Graves afterwards said that slippage near the end, that one was on him.
Well, first, I'll just say congratulations to Michigan State. They deserved a really hard-fought win. They played well and did what they needed to do. I'm just really disappointed for us. That's a game we let get away. My fault. I should have, I think we made we're tired turnovers at the end, and I failed to give two of our players key, even a minute or two in that second half, just a little bit of rest. And I think a few of those turnovers late were fatigue turnovers. We just lost our composure, and that's unfortunate because I thought we played a good basketball game overall. That's the two Michigans we just let slip away here at home, and that's unfortunate because these are both games that we could have won. But we've got to learn from it. It doesn't get any easier in this conference. Now we got to go play at Iowa, who's a really good basketball team. So, but again, credit Michigan State. They were tougher down the stretch than we were and executed a lot better.
And I think one of the things, just looking at the stats in this game, too many turnovers. 19 turnovers. It's too many turnovers. And I think for Katie Fiso, she had 9 turnovers herself. She did have 9 assists, but I think that's the next level for her, is clearly like cutting those back. Do you know how many she averages this season?
Probably like 4, 3?
3.9 per game. Okay. So you're right on the money.
But she played 37 minutes.
100%. And I think that's absolutely something that's like a nitpick of a very, very good player. But I think that is something that for this team, and she's so important in terms of her creation, and they don't have a lot of shot creators on this team, that they've got to play clean basketball. And that's a big part of it. It's just being able to facilitate without getting turnovers.
Yeah, the margin for error when you start playing the teams like the Michigans, 100%. Michigan States, is so small. And you've got to play your A. You cannot. And again,
and Coach Graves took credit for some of that in terms of his rotation.
Right. Yeah, well, he took the blame, is what he did.
Or took the blame, yeah.
I think as well, and when you look at a 4-point loss, and I think, what was it, a 3-point loss to Michigan in double overtime. I mean, those are 2 tough, gut-wrenching
really
losses.
Yeah.
And now you're sitting at 2-3 in the Big Ten, 14-4 overall. Now you got to go on the road, and he just said Iowa Thursday, 6 p.m. That'll be on FS1. And those turnovers near the end, they were because of fatigue. And you just see your legs get like jelly. You're running up and down the floor. You know every possession's important. And sometimes it's just that one little mental slip because you are tired.
Right. And
again, I think Coach Graves learned something about his team, about himself as well in these things. And I don't think he's going to make that mistake again.
Yeah. I went for a 1-mile run yesterday, and I didn't make it 1 mile. I went 0.91. And I can only imagine if you're playing in a 40-minute basketball game at the end of the game, if you need some rest, and that shows how good a shape I'm in, basically.
And by the way,
it's tough when you're tired.
Yeah, and I'll just say, I just use the word mistake with Kelly Graves. Those are kind of the way he was projecting it. I would never question Kelly Graves in terms of how he goes out and manages a game.
Kelly,
I know more than you do.
You suck.
Absolutely not. I mean, he gets every ounce out of those players that is in them. Let's put it that way. I've seen it. And there are players, I'm sure, argue with him to say, don't take me out of the game, Coach.
Exactly.
And Katie Fiso's a warrior like that.
It is the job of the play. I mean, you want a player that wants to play, but you need a coach that has the ability to say, I know you want to play, but let's give you some rest.
For a second.
Exactly.
And again, that's all Kelly Graves was saying.
Exactly, 100%.
And by the way, Coach Graves is going to be hosting a behind-the-scenes tour of MKA tonight. O Club is sponsoring this. Anybody's available. You don't have to be an O Club member. Starts at 5:30 at the Founders Room on the campus today.
Oh, a joke!
I got fired from the bank today. A woman asked me to check her balance, so I pushed her.
Dad jokes!
What do you call a fake pizza?
A fake pizza?
What do you call a fake pizza?
A pseudo pie or something?
No. A pepperoni pizza.
A pepperoni. Okay.
You're a pepperoni.
Pepperoni. I like a pseudo pie.
That's actually not bad either.
That was pretty good.
You could probably write some dad jokes.
That was a pretty good one off the top of my head.
All right. Tomorrow on the program, have no clue.
Eric Scopel.
Okay. I don't have any clue. You just did. I think you already told me.
Yeah.
Scopel-Damas will be with us tomorrow. More postscript and looking ahead for the Oregon football program and Oregon women's basketball. Scopel-Damas does it really well. For Justin, I'm Danny. Thanks for tuning in. Go to the podcast if you missed Max Torres. We'll be back tomorrow right here in the fastest 60 minutes. God bless, be well. Put a smile on your face, someone else's. They deserve it. So do you. Peace.